Sheri, looking festive for our last episode before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Since most people listen to the podcast as opposed to watching it on YouTube, where it is available if you're an avid YouTube watcher, we need to describe what you got going on over here a little bit, because it's great. You have some reindeer antlers on, which I like. Little holly on the antlers, so the antlers are... So you're wearing a decoration of your own head, and the decoration of your head has a decoration on it. And a cat Christmas tree shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty great.
Yeah.
Do you like cats?
I do.
Oh.
I do.
I wasn't sure.
The one that's the stump is my favorite.
He looks like Gordon.
Yeah.
Is that why you like him?
Yeah, because it's a yellow, red ginger tabby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the fun thing is working with kids, you get to dress kind of goofy sometimes, and gives you an excuse to have some of these clothing and headwear accessories.
The only thing more exciting than the way you're dressed right now is how off the charts fired up I was last Friday when you and I completed the recording, the overdub of our new intro and outro that we're going to launch for the podcast in January 2026, starting the new year with a fresh new sound.
Is that your DJ voice?
Starting the new year with a fresh new sound here on the Untoxicated Podcast. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fired up. We, as opposed to a song that is public domain, which is the song that we've used for 7 years now, however long it's been, to do the intro and outro, we actually bought the rights to a song from an aspiring, up-and-coming, hip young band from Fort Collins called Heliotrope. The song we chose is called Goose Song. And I really think this is evidence of how cool and into music trends that you and I are. That we pick these, from all the options out there, we hand-selected the new big thing. In 2-3 years, everyone's going to say, Taylor Swift, who's that? I want to listen to Heliotrope.
That would be really awesome for these 4 young adults.
So you and I, we're star makers in a lot of ways.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm.
They're really cool. And they have 4 members, Nick, Gail, Isaac, and Josh. Now, coincidentally, we have a son named Nick who lives in Fort Collins. So
who's in a band?
Who's in a band called Heliotrope. There is a chance that, like all good parents who try to, help their kids out and encourage all of their activities and adventures, that we might have purchased the rights to a song, the first song that our son's band produced. There is a fair chance that that's what's happened here. But I want to, in full disclosure, tell our listening audience that Heliotrope has this song that's out available right now on Spotify for their listening pleasure. But they also have another song that is almost finished that we also really liked. Mm-hmm. And I want you to tell people why we chose Goose Song over the other song.
Well, you really like the song, and I do too. One of my favorite things about this song's title is Goose is the name of one of the band members' cat.
They named the song after their cat.
Which is named Goose.
In fact, they lied to us. They told us
the song was about
the song was about Josh's cat. And I listened to it like 3 times, and then I got a copy of the lyrics, and I read the lyrics, and I'm like, I don't understand. How is this about a cat? And they were like, oh, yeah, it's not at all.
Yeah.
We just named it after the cat. It has nothing to do with the cat. But it's great. Goose Song, it's called, by Heliotrope. Really strongly recommend you check it out on Spotify. And starting January 1st, every week when you listen to the Untoxicated Podcast, you'll get to listen to a snippet of it up front. But since we paid for the thing, you're going to hear the whole song at the end. It's like when you go to a movie and you watch the credits, but you like the music that's playing during the credits, so you just sit there and listen to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Like when you and I went to see the Queen movie. Mm-hmm. What was that called? Bohemian Rhapsody, maybe?
Yeah.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and all the people our age and all the gay people all stayed and watched and danced to the music together.
Yeah, a lot of people stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun. But
well, I think this is kind of cool because as we're speaking about helping our son's band get a little funding to produce their next song, which is what they use this money for, was to get.
Does that make us producers? Are we music producers now?
Jeez, you're just taking a lot of credit.
Yeah.
Influencers, producers. I was just thinking, we have had quite a few people in our recovery groups that have had a child who is a budding musician.
Yeah.
And has put some music out there.
They've got
in the world.
Angsty traumatic childhood that they have to work through somehow.
Yeah.
And they do it with creative arts, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or maybe just all children should be encouraged to be creative. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, for sure. That they should all be encouraged to be creative and have a little hobby and passion, even if it doesn't go anywhere spectacular like Taylor Swift level. Yeah,
like Heliotrope's going to be. There's actually, I want to warn our listening audience, there's a couple of bands named Heliotrope, so I think you gotta put Heliotrope and Goose Song in the search together to find it.
Or look for the purple little icon.
And it's purple and it says Heliotrope. It says Fort Collins or FOCO, which is, for those that don't live in Colorado, that's kind of short for Fort Collins. Yeah, or you'll end up with the wrong Heliotrope, and you don't want to do that. We don't want to dilute the rise of fame, so make sure you're going to the right Heliotrope. Sheri, we talk all the time about emotional safety on this podcast and how important it is. How important it is to create an emotionally safe environment for children to thrive, for partnerships to thrive. It's necessary. You and I had an experience just last night, the night before we're recording this podcast episode, where the emotionally safe environment in which we live, it was tested a little bit. There was a wind advisory here in the Front Range of Colorado, and it kind of frustrated me because it was forecast like a week out, and there was so much concern, and I would call it more than concern, it was cover your ass concern, which that's what frustrates me. There was so much concern that I think it's the second largest school district in the state of Colorado canceled school for all their schools
to cover
on the
their
wind
ass
day.
For the safety of students.
See, now there's two ways to look at that. Yeah, there's two ways to look at it. Is there a legitimate safety concern, or do we live in a part of the country that experiences harsh weather all the time, and might we be able to buck up, Buttercup, and handle a little wind? I mean, you can look at it both ways.
I know that we have some of our listeners and people that in our recovery group that often remember something called the Marshall Fire that happened this time a few years ago because of high winds caused a fire and devastated a community. So maybe you might want to think about that it's not maybe just your annoyance of buck up, Buttercup, and that there are real concerns. I mean, there was they took down power so something wouldn't spark and cause, because we've been really dry here in Colorado. So
you have an incredible skill at making me look like an asshole. Good job.
It's really not a skill.
I know,
it's
Melanie. You're saying, Matt, you make yourself look like an asshole. She doesn't have to help.
It can be really easy.
Thanks. Yeah. Okay.
Really
anyway,
easy.
So great. So it was super windy.
Shooting into a duck.
I was wrong. I was wrong. Everybody who took precautions was right. I'm an idiot. And the wind was real.
And we actually got a lot of crazy wind in the afternoon here in Denver, which I don't think was necessarily forecasted to be quite as big gusts and the strong wind that kind of rolled into here.
Well, then last night after it was supposed to be over, you and I decided to go on a short walk like we do after dinner quite frequently. And we walked out of the house, and it was gusting wind still. And we're like, oh my gosh, this was supposed to be over hours ago. And it's dark now. It's not windy when it's dark. It's windy when the sun is having some impact. And so we came around to the front of our house, and a huge limb was down. A huge limb from our tree. Mm-hmm. And it had fallen on the car that was parked in front of our house. The back window, the back end of the car, it shattered the glass. It was a hatchback. And it was also crossing the street and completely blocking the street. Mm-hmm. So that's what we walked upon. And I was taking a minute to kind of take it all in, and it was starting to rain. That was another component. And
that almost made you wimp out and not even leave at the beginning of our driveway up by the back of our house because you were like, oh, and it's raining.
That would have been bad, too, because what I've learned is if trees are blocking streets, the city comes out and takes care of it and then sends you the bill for their services. So I'm glad that we went outside and realized that our tree was blocking the street.
We were fucking it up, Buttercup, and we were walking to the end of our driveway.
That's right.
And then we were like, fudge.
That's right. But the way we handled it, this is the point I want to make. I was like, my wheels were turning. I was processing what's the right next move. We knew we had one teenage son at home, so we knew we had some brawn available to help. I wanted to assess, here are the things. There's the car that's got damaged. There's the tree that's blocking the road. These are two completely separate issues that both need to be addressed. And so I'm just thinking, and I'm not processing it very quickly. And you are rattling off suggestions, good suggestions, important suggestions. But about the fifth thing you said was, do you want me to go ask Mark to borrow his chainsaw? And I said, what did I say?
I don't remember.
Give me a minute!
Yeah, that was it.
Like I yelled, give me a minute! Because I wasn't far enough along.
You were too confused on what the first step should be.
I was locked up a little. I mean, I wasn't you're panicking and running inside.
But you were a little bit like, okay, what's the very first thing that we should do? Like, you wanted to be more like methodical about it, and I'm more of I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna dive in, and I'm not gonna know what's going on. I'm gonna start swimming, and so I was like, I think that's a little bit of difference, because you go in it very methodically. I just jump in, and then I'm like, I'll figure it out, kind of in those situations, because that's my reaction to do things.
Well, the reaction I really want to hear about is, how did that make you feel, considering the fact that we have a high up rate for emotional safety in our house now. We didn't used to, but we do now. How did it make you feel to hear me snap at you like that and raise my voice in that moment?
Well, I think because we have had a lot of emotional safety, I didn't shut down the way I normally could have or would have. I did extend a little courtesy, going, okay, I forget. He's a little more methodical. He needs to figure it out and in my head make it his plan, because I was also still a little hurt and mad. I was a little frustrated that I feel like a little untrusted, okay, I know who has a chainsaw. I'm gonna start calling this person because I think it might be that person, related to the person at that house. And I had ideas, and I felt a little untrusted that maybe my ideas weren't of value until you figured out your plan for it.
Yeah, so a little bit of
dismissing me.
Patriarchy, I'm the man, let me think about it.
Yeah.
I do apologize for that. Part of the thing I didn't mention when I told the story is it was still windy, and that tree,
and that was
the other 95% of the tree was still up there, and the car was under the tree and the limb was under the tree. And so I was quite nervous about having you specifically, me to a lesser extent, just because I worry about my people more than I worry about myself. I was worried about you standing under the tree while we were making decisions and figuring it out. So there was that stress of, the danger isn't really over. The next limb could come down because it was still gusting winds.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to make an excuse, but I think I did step into I really feel the need out of my own fear and insecurity to grasp for control. Like we always talk about. That's what happens when we're less confident and more insecure. We want to grasp for control. And so there definitely was some of that going on with me because I didn't feel like the danger was over. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it ended up being us, a couple of different neighbors out there. Our son came out. The wind died down. You were working on, because the person whose car was damaged was not home. We figured out who it was. And by text message and phone call.
Communicating with them.
You did a great job, and you figured out who it was. And we knew they weren't home. And so you got a trash bag and were taping up their back window because it was starting to rain, so that they wouldn't have water damage in addition to glass damage. And then our son and I and the neighbors were getting the tree out of the way and sweeping and using snow shovels, and we ended up having kind of a fun time out there, if I may.
Yeah, it was nice to
kind of a little neighborly bonding and talking about other times when trees had fallen or other times when bad stuff had happened. And at the end of the day, we talked about the fact that we have a neighbor that lives up and around the corner from us that drives this white Porsche, and he's just such an asshole. I mean, he's such an asshole.
Do you think his name is Dick?
He should be. He has been mean to us when we were teaching our kids how to drive because he lives in a cul-de-sac, so we go up there because it's a little off the beaten path. He's been mean to us when we were doing other things in the yard. He's been mean to our neighbors, we found out. Because as soon as I said, glad white Porsche guy isn't trying to get past while we got the road blocked, they were all like, oh yeah, white Porsche guy. And so at the very end, I said, about white Porsche guy, I said, between his terrible attitude and that expensive white Porsche he drives, how small do you think his penis really is?
And then one of our female neighbors said, that's it, I'm out.
But there was laughter all around.
Yeah, no, there was laughter. She was giggling under.
And so the reason I thought that was fun was because here's a situation where we all pitched in, rallied together, actually had a good time, had some fun conversations, could easily have gone the other way. Let's say I had had a few drinks with dinner or after dinner, before dinner, whatever, and then the tree came. I would have been out there so incredibly mad and stressed and anxious about how much is this going to cost us? What's insurance going to cover? Who's going to sue who? Like, I would have gone to the dramatic, right? Because that's what I did when I drank.
And you also would have probably grabbed another beer and taken it out there with you and not borrowed the chainsaw, but used your like smaller thing and tried to like remedy the whole thing, because when you had those drinking days, you couldn't leave things.
Yeah.
So you would have tried to get it all done and taken care of and moved off of the street, for one, because there would have been that control, but there would have been nothing to see here sort of mentality. Right now, the limb is broken up into parts and it's parked in front of our neighbor's house, who has a garage and a carport. So we told her it's going to be there over the weekend while we get it moved away.
Or until the weekend.
Until the weekend, yeah. So we're going to get it moved away. And she was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't even know what was going on. And so, but you would have been like, we have to fix all of this right now, tonight. And there would have been, it would have been just, I can't even imagine what kind of mess.
Yeah.
With it being dark. And I can only imagine like you trying to get through that big tree trunk. Because it was not, I mean, it was a branch, but it was like huge. I mean, it was, I just can't even, I'm so thankful you weren't drinking.
I think it's an important story for people to recognize, because we talk about the value of emotional safety. We talk about the value of sobriety and recovery, but we have to really illustrate it sometimes. That was fun. I mean, I didn't want the tree to come down, and our poor neighbor, no matter whose insurance pays for it, she's got to deal with the hassle of getting the glass fixed and dealing with all that. And, we've been through body work before. That sucks, man. It sucks so hard. So I feel bad for her for sure. But the fact is that you and I and the neighbors that were out there, we had an enjoyable bonding experience. And that's what life intoxicated is all about, especially when you contrast it against what life intoxicated would have looked like. It would have been another little nasty shit show that we could add to the pile of traumatic memories and nervous system activation that didn't need to happen. Mm-hmm. But instead, this will be something that all of us that were out there will remember. This 10 years from now, we'll be at the 4th of July donut party that the one neighbor across the street always throws. And we're like, remember the time the tree fell down? We're out there with snow shovels moving branches, and it started raining and it was windy. You thought Sheri was going to die because of branch. And well, it'll just be a fun. Oh, and then you made fun of the guy, the white Porsche guy's penis. Ha ha ha. So that's what Life Intoxicated is all about. Instead of creating new trauma, it's about making fun of another man's penis. Sheri, let's talk about the elephant around the Christmas tree. So I wrote a piece that we published on our blog, called our Sober and Unashamed blog, for those who would like to check it out. You can read it, or in the catalog, the Untoxicated Podcast catalog, we have an audio version. But the title is Elephant Around the Christmas Tree. I wrote a story that is about my drinking days on Christmas Eve when I would. The typical was, especially when we owned the bakery that we owned for 15 years, the Christmas season is very, very busy. And when we closed for the day on Christmas Eve afternoon, because we closed early like most businesses do on Christmas Eve, I would stay around at the bakery and get things closed up, do the money stuff and get the remaining bread ready for donation and just do all the things that we do. And while I was doing that, doors locked, no other employees there, I would drink eggnog spiked with whiskey. And I don't even know if you knew that at the time that I would do that. I'm sure it wouldn't come as any surprise to you.
It doesn't come as a surprise, but not always. Like, I mean, it took a while to figure out that it was more.
And then I would come home with the family, kids when they were small, and I would continue to drink. And on more than one occasion, I passed out while the kids were still awake before they had gone to bed and left you hanging with doing the stockings and doing any assembly necessary for Santa gifts. And my parents it's been a tradition for them to spend Christmas with us for many years. So often it was you and my dad putting together a bike or a play set or something. And I'm passed out on the couch. And I've told that story and I've written it from my perspective many times, talking about the shame that I felt later looking back and how I had let my family down and how I was worried about what anybody was going to say the next day to me about my drinking. Basically, a very me-centric story. And I told it this week in this piece titled Elephant Around the Christmas Tree, for the first time written, really highlighting your trauma and your isolation. That was what the focal point was. I've always acknowledged that. I've always said, and this must have been hard for Sheri. But this time I really drove home the fact that this was the story I wanted to tell was about, oh my God, how awful must it be at Christmas time to live with an active alcoholic, be the partner of an active alcoholic, and be in nervous system activation all the time. You never know what you're going to get or what to expect, what's going to be said, what's going to be done, who's going to pass out, who's going to spill on the carpet. It's all of that. And I've thought about that, and that being the highlight of this, not the highlight, the low light really of the story, the important facet of the story has grown in me over the years. But that's the first time I've told it and really said, listen, if you're the drinker and you're like, oh, I can relate to that. You started out having some beers, it's Christmas Eve and you think you're fine, and then you pass out and you let down your family and the shame. Keep reading. Read what you've done to your family. Read the impact on the family, because that's the point I tried to drive home this time. And I want you to react to that. When you've experienced that in the past, and then you hear me say, "Oh, woe is me, I'm an alcoholic. That's so hard. That was so hard for me." Has that felt dismissive to you?
Yeah. Well, dismissive is probably a kind way and a gentle way to put it. I feel like we always got the raw end of the deal with you because of the prioritization of alcohol. And you missed out on so much that it was really hard, and I could see it, and I got to share it, and I got to experience it with our kids, and it just was another slap in the face that you weren't interested, and you made it seem like, oh, it was all about like making sure the business was taken care of, when selfishly I know that it was so you could just spend some time alone to drink. And there's nothing wrong with needing to have your alone time and some downtime, especially with the way that we had our bakery business for many years. But to do it on Christmas Eve when the house was supposed to be full of joy, and all I ever remember saying to you was like, I don't want Christmases and holidays to like have bad memories. I want to bring as much joy as possible. And part of it was because I, at one point didn't even know if I wanted to have kids because I was like worried about like messing them up. And just with the upbringing I had, which wasn't terrible, but I just felt like it was disrespectful to all of us, to your parents who were here, to your children that you weren't around and helping get Christmas, Eve, early Eve, or going to church with us for a Christmas Eve service and get to see your daughter like be an acolyte, or your sons be an acolyte and carry the Christ candle. Just things like that. I just felt like it's so much more than just dismissive.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's literally trauma. It's
neglect is like how I guess is a good way to describe it. You just neglected us.
That's right. And the nervous system damage done, it's the kind of thing that gets kind of brushed aside as, oh yeah, that's some collateral damage and we need to acknowledge it. But I'm here to say what I've learned is it's really the most important thing. Because as a drinker, if I do damage to myself, well, that's kind of on me. But when I do damage to my family, that is abuse. And it needs to be acknowledged as such. I think you and I have advantages. I've been thinking a lot about this lately, literally over everybody else out there. Because not only do you and I approach the resentments from the past and just talking about the past with curiosity, which I think that's somewhat unique. I think a lot of people just want to bury the past or do whatever they have to do to move on from the past. You and I think, have a tendency to be... you and I are not completely unique in that we have curiosity, but we have curiosity, and then overlay on top of that, the thing that makes this really unique is we hear both sides of the same story over and over again because of what we do for a living, because of meeting people who are high-functioning alcoholics in early sobriety that are working on their stuff, and also spending a lot of time with the partners who have their stuff to work through. So we often know both sides of the couple. We hear the same story told twice differently. Mm-hmm. And I think it has given us a really, in the world of recovery, a unique perspective that there are very few people, if any, that have. And I think it's really important. I feel like it's a duty that we have, because we have this unique perspective, to share these stories with the world and share them with an eye for the thing that you wouldn't catch if you were only on one side of the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and I think because you and I have conversations about our own perspectives of the way we lived our lives, and we talk about it and we share it and we like compare it, because there is your truth and my truth, right? Because there's different perspectives,
right? And
your viewpoint on something is different than my viewpoint. And like you were talking just earlier and you asked me, did it feel dismissive to you, Sheri? Well, I went right to how I felt like it was neglect for all of us, and the kids included. Like, and I was kind of prioritizing the kids. So even from your writing, and I confess I didn't get to finish reading it because it just came out yesterday, and I've been working a lot.
Words.
I've been working a lot. I've been working a lot, and people think then I had to go get yelled at for trying to clean up a tree branch.
Right.
I mean,
give me a minute. Go inside and read my writing. I'm thinking. No, I don't want a chainsaw.
Yeah. So, but my perspective was like it wasn't just me that was being hurt and having a activated nervous system. It was the kids, and you were thinking about it more from that point of view a little bit, when you were asking me. So I think when we hear other people's stories, we can kind of fill in the blanks and like kind of mesh together the stories, whereas maybe these two people on either side of the relationship can't find the cohesiveness.
Especially early on.
Yeah.
It takes, the other component besides curiosity and hearing both stories is it takes time to be able to remove yourself from the situation enough to process it. Well, the rest of this episode, we're going to really highlight the importance of storytelling. We're going to tell some stories and see if our listeners relate to them. You know, we talk a lot about emotional safety, emotional maturity, emotional intimacy. Now we talk a lot about emotional masculinity, which I think is huge. We talk about nervous system dysregulation, broken trust, fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, betrayal, eggshells, gaslighting, Darvo. All of these words, these interweb psychology words. And if you know, right? If you've experienced it, great. But for a lot of people, those are just words. And they go, yeah, I need to create emotional safety. What is that? What the hell is that exactly? So we're going to do some storytelling for the rest of this episode and share the impact of the stories, not just the impact of the words. But first, we would love to tell you that we are sponsored by SoberLink. SoberLink is the premier remote alcohol monitoring system, combining cutting-edge technology with compassionate design to support accountability in recovery and family law. Guys, let me talk directly to you for a minute. If you are like me, you are sure that you've got this sobriety thing. You've been reading and researching about addiction. Maybe you attend meetings and you have assembled a toolkit of things to do when cravings strike. And if you are like me, maybe you're confident that your grit and determination will help you over the hump when all else fails. And for the most part, like me, you're probably right. But if you might be like me, please consider this. It took me 10 years to get sober. Throughout that decade, I had long periods where I had all that stuff and it was enough to keep me sober. But then I had moments of weakness too, or times when I was totally convinced that the new rule I planned to put around my drinking would keep me moderating successfully, would let me drink like everybody else. And then there were the holidays, when nostalgia about spiked eggnog and seasonal winter porters was just too much for me to resist. 10 years it took me. 10 years wasted.
10 wasted years.
That's right. If I had SoberLink back then, I'm sure I would have made it and saved myself and family a decade of trauma and misery.
And guys, if you're not going to do it for yourself, get SoberLink as a gift for your family. There's no alcoholic trauma that is as devastating as holiday alcoholic trauma. I know this from years of experience. Please, it doesn't mean you aren't tough and committed if you buy a tool to help you make it through. In fact, using tools to get the job done makes you smart and efficient, and it shows that you love your family more than you love your ego.
Right now, this holiday season, SoberLink is offering Intoxicated podcast listeners a free offer ID valid for a $100 enrollment bonus. That is a $100 enrollment bonus for SoberLink's best-in-class service and product combination with built-in facial recognition and tamper detection, expert in-house support, emailed daily, weekly, or monthly reporting that's court admissible in all 50 states and Canada, unlimited testing days, and scheduled testing to build accountability and trust.
So claim your offer ID for a $100 enrollment bonus. There's no commitment required to claim your offer ID while this promotion lasts, and you can use your $100 enrollment bonus when you're ready to place your order. To claim your offer ID, you will only be asked to provide your name and email address. No personal details, no commitment, and no credit card number. To claim your offer ID for the $100 enrollment bonus, please go to soberlink.com/untoxicated.
We are supported by the participants in our Shout Sobriety and Echoes of Recovery think tanks. On a recent Monday, a man living in a rural setting with a woman who owns horses said, "I mended her fence, I fed her animals, and I made her breakfast. What more does she want from me?" That Wednesday, his partner said, "He fixed my fence, he fed my horses, and he made me breakfast. But he refuses to talk to me about the growing unspoken conflict between us. I can't live this way." Another man said, "I've apologized, I've gotten sober, and I'm proud of the man I've become. Why does she keep bringing up the past?" 2 days later, his wife said, "He can't take it when I bring up the trauma I've been through, and I can't stay married to a man who isn't strong enough to help me process the past. I don't need a clean slate. I need my experiences to be valid." What makes our organization unique is the exposure we have to both sides of an alcoholic partnership. Those experiences drive everything we say, everything we write, and everything we do. We learn, then we share, and together we all grow.
The normal flow of participation is that someone joins our Echoes of Recovery group think tank for the partners of alcoholics. And then once they get comfortable, they often suggest to their drinker or their former drinker that they join our Shout Sobriety think tank. And we honor and respect the confidences and privacy of both people. And we also facilitate growth and discovery not available in programs with a singular focus.
If you are the partner or former partner of someone whose drinking has caused you anxiety or trauma, please consider joining us in Echoes of Recovery. Once you're comfortable, maybe you will want to invite your partner to join us in Shout Sobriety. That's how it most frequently flows.
To see if you belong in Echoes of Recovery, please go to echoesofrecovery.org and take our brief introductory survey. It won't take you but a minute to see if we might be a fit for each other.
That's echoesofrecovery.org. All right, Sheri, story time. Story time with Matt and Sheri.
All right.
Let's talk about some traumatic holiday stories. And listener, this is going to be a two-part series. We're going to talk right now about stories of traumatic experiences when I was still drinking. And then for next week's episode, which will be episode 328, we're going to talk about how the trauma lingers into sobriety. I wish I had better news for people that are in their first holiday season of sobriety or considering sobriety. But this is a long game we're playing, and I strongly encourage you keep going because you and I, our holidays are about as good as they can get now, but it takes a while to get there. So let's talk about Parade of Lights. We live in Denver, Colorado. In the downtown of Denver, there is, I think it's like the first Saturday of December. It's a parade that is held at nighttime. You got your traditional parade stuff, floats, bands. I don't know, what else is there? Other stuff?
Horses,
sure. Cars, maybe.
Yeah.
Everything is decorated in lights. So now that...
Flame tossing
Yeah.
and hula hoops that are on fire.
But now that lights don't have to be plugged into a wall outlet and there's these battery activated lights. God, I sound old. People just wrap them all around their body and everyone's out there glowing
Like
and
the
with a
tuba
couple
is all
of AA
illuminated.
batteries.
Tube is all illuminated in the marching bands. It's fun.
It is. It's fun. But it is crowded, man. And traditionally, for year after year in a row, we would get a big time cold snap. So we'd be out there in teens or single digit temperatures, and the parade would be 3 or 4 or 4 or 5 rows deep, and we had little kids. So you try to get there early, and first hour is spent trying to find a parking space, and then you got to walk down there, and then you got your wagon because you got to make your kids comfortable.
This won't surprise anybody, but Matt never wanted to pay for the parking lot or the parking
There was
garages.
paid parking?
There are buku amounts of paid parking downtown.
No, I feel
In
like
lots or in
those people just want to
parking
steal your car.
garages, but
Those people just want to rent out your backseat for
also,
prostitution.
yeah. Well, and now if you were to go down there and you did want to part with anybody a bit of your money, you'd be like, oh crap, I have to download an app? No, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr.
Here's some
Mr.
cold hard
Oldman.
cash.
Here's some-
We don't take cash.
No, there's not even an attendant working, but
But so Parade of Lights. So I want to talk about our experience when we were invited to a Christmas party overlooking the Parade of Lights. So let's save that for a separate story. Let's first talk about what it was like for you, Sheri, to go down there, because explain to our listeners what you were up against as far as my preparation to get down there.
your preparation usually included making sure you had peppermint schnapps or cinnamon schnapps, preferably peppermint schnapps, so you could put it in your hot chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Because you were kind enough to make a nice, family-oriented. Oh, sorry.
Did you want me to tell you?
I do.
So sit back and it's story time.
I'll think about what we're going to do with the branch across the road.
Why don't you listen to the
No,
story?
I don't want. No, I don't want a chainsaw. Go ahead.
So because we wanted to get down there early, but then getting back and was late, so we kind of had to split dinner. So I had to figure out what we were going to make for dinner. That would be, they can eat some now and eat some later. So usually it was like spaghetti or, a soup or chili or something. Pardon me. So So I had that to contend with. I had to get the wagon. I had to make sure all of the like snowsuits, because you are like standing still. So you definitely needed to wear warm socks and your boots. No freaking tennis shoes. Even if it was, 42, you're going to be there for a while.
Yeah.
And so you needed to dress warm, and you were not really a good helper in making sure that all the children had all their stuff.
What do you mean? I made sure I had all of my stuff. Was
You
there
made
more
sure
to do than that?
The big boy had all of his stuff, and I didn't give a rip if you were cold and miserable.
I made sure I had my boots and my peppermint schnapps.
Like I said, the big boy had his supplies.
Weren't the kids able to fend for themselves?
Yeah, those 1 and 2 and 3 year olds. Yeah, they were real easy to fend for themselves. So that was part of the preparation, the dinner part of the preparation, making of the hot chocolate, and making sure that we took a thermos that would have more hot chocolate, because inevitably we would need to do that. I also needed to pack toilet paper, because oftentimes someone would need to go to the bathroom, and not all the porta potties had toilet paper. Or we would have a little squatty in an alley and they wouldn't have toilet paper. So then that also meant having couples that Ziploc bags. Also, we had babies that would go with us because we had 4 kids. So there was the whole diaper bag situation. So I looked like a Sherpa with a wagon. And sometimes we didn't take a wagon, depending on like the age of our kids and how many kids we had with us and supplies. But then the nice challenging part was that you had been drinking before dinner, and then you...
Parade of Lights is on a Saturday. It's actually on...
Well, there was I think it's only Saturday now. I don't think they have the Friday. But they used to have a Friday night later viewing, and then Saturday night was like at 5 or 6 because...
But we went on Saturday.
But we would typically go on Saturday because we owned the bakery, and our bakery stayed open later. So we couldn't get down there in time for Friday night. So it had been a Saturday.
The only reason I mentioned that is because it's at the end of the college football season. It's either the rivalry weekend or the conference playoff weekend. Either way, it was big games, and I would drink beer late afternoon and watch football, and then be like, all right, did you get everything ready to go? Because I'm ready to go now.
Yeah. Or that would have also been the same weekend that we typically went to cut our Christmas tree. So we had little kids. So we did get up earlier.
Too. Yeah.
We did get up earlier because we had younger kids. So that was a little bit of a break because we needed to get, the younger ones home for a nap. So there was just a lot crammed into one day.
Yes.
Perhaps. But most of what was cramming in your day was like making sure you could get your daily intake of allotted beer, and then adding the schnapps on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you would like nip at that all the time, all day long when you had it, because you probably bought it on the Friday night before.
So were you, did you go down there so there's all these steps, park, walk, find a spot, try not to get stabbed by somebody else that's fighting for a good viewing spot, just general interacting with other humans. All of that, did you have, what was your trust level in, we got 4 kids. What if one of them runs off? Did you have faith in me not overdoing it to the point where I'd still be helpful? Were you worried I'd be off looking for a porta potty because I drank beer all day? What's your stress level like going down there?
Well, it was stressful, but I feel like...
Besides that you got to do everything, which I want to honor and respect, but... Beyond that, the fact that you're married to an alcoholic. So,
putting myself back in those days, I all I could do was rely on you a little bit. Yeah. I had to have some faith that you were going to step up and you were going to be able to deal with this. And most of the time, you were. Sometimes you were a little edgy and crotchety and snippy, but for the most part, you were pretty jovial. And, I was always a little more nervous about the way you were going to park, how close you were going to park to the cars next to us. And I was a little worried about your, not that you were drunk, but just you would be just enough impaired that it would be a little tiny ding. And then, crap, then, maybe something bad would happen. So my anxiety level of what if Like, there just happens to be a police officer and sees you eating the car, and he comes over and he smells the peppermint schnapps on your breath because you had already been nipping at that and it was in your hot chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, like, I kind of had to, like, just put myself in the hands of the universe a little bit to say, like, he's gonna have to step up. You know, you're gonna have to. And I think most of the time you did a really decent job. There was one time in particular, I remember it was a little more challenging than others.
When you look back and you think about the fact that this was our kids' formative years, does it make you mad to think that, yeah, you had to put your faith in the universe and for the most part I stepped up, which I don't want to take any credit for. I just, like, don't you wish it just could have been fun?
Yeah.
And smooth?
Yeah.
Like, does it make you angry?
Sometimes it makes me angry, but I think for the most part, I did have some sort of enjoyment watching the kids really get excited about it. I mean, it's not something that I looked forward to because it was just such a crowded event. I mean, it was so crazy. Even between the 2 days that it used to happen, it was a little bit better when it was the 2 days, like a Friday night and a Saturday night. So it did kind of break up the crowd a little. So there were some fun times. But I was also very stressed because I didn't know downtown very well. And we had driven around in circles so much that I was, like, worried we were going to lose track of where the car was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was a little uncomfortable with that. That's why I wanted to, like, I would often every freaking year suggest let's park in this pay lot. It's only $10. You know, I'm like, it's $10 for basically a free event.
Everything. Do you know how many sticks of gum that is,
Sheri? You know how many pencils you could buy with that? But, you know, so I'd be frustrated because I wanted to have some sort of feeling like I knew where the car was in case things went down or whatever. You know, or I needed to go back because maybe somebody had a diaper blowout, or just I felt like I just kind of really had no control over the situation. And I did try to let myself go and have fun. And sometimes I would have some peppermint schnapps in my hot chocolate, and that was yummy. But I was like, candy cane does the same thing. I'm not drinking it to get drunk.
God. You don't sound like an alcoholic at all. Peppermint schnapps and a candy cane. They're not even similar.
It wasn't like it was Rumplemints or anything.
Let's talk about the law firm parade of lights. So, same event, slightly different scenario in that we had a neighbor who was a lawyer, and she hired us when we owned the bakery to do a bunch of gift baskets, like a big order of gift baskets, including delivery for their clients, the law firm's clients. And they were a downtown law firm, and one of the years we were invited to their Christmas party in their law firm, which overlooked the streets of downtown. So you could, I mean, it's very pretentious feeling. I don't know how it sounds, but like, oh, we're going to go to the fancy law firm and look down on all the freezing people out there, all the peasants that are standing on the sidewalk. And so we did that one year. We had the indoor parade of lights experience. Kids were still involved.
Yeah, because it was a family
event friendly,
for this law firm's people, and it was family encouraged, and they had a Santa that was there for taking pictures.
But so still lots of booze flowing.
Oh yeah, lots of.
So I think about this in terms of consequences. Had I overdone it and made an ass of myself, we could have lost that big order for the following year. That was a big deal. Mm-hmm. We had it for, I don't remember, 5-6 years in a row, and it was a big deal. And losing it would not be helpful to the bottom line.
And that, my listeners, is the year that Matt paid for parking.
For the law firm?
Because there was a parking garage, and we were like, what are we going to do? Like, it just made no sense to, like, go and park, like, 10 blocks away and walk if we were going to go into this.
Probably.
Without, like, we weren't going to be bundled up.
We had to bundle up just to get from the car.
Exactly. So you're like, okay, well, I guess we will. Also, because then, because it was like a garage that was attached to the building.
There is a limit to my frugality, apparently. A lot of people didn't think that there was, but... I can crack that wallet open if I have to. Mm-hmm. But so, did you? Again, I want to get your mindset. Were you worried, like, God, if this guy drinks too much and acts like an ass?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to lose this order. He's going to embarrass me in front of our neighbors and the other people that we knew.
Yeah. I mean, this was also the neighbor that one time I'm going to run into the restroom, and we were taking our kids around at Halloween trick-or-treating on a trick-or-treat street, and it was a business and restaurants, and they kind of closed off the block, and you and he were sidled up to the bar at one of the watering holes drinking, and I was like, what the hell are you two doing? You're supposed to be helping us with our kids trick-or-treating, and you're in here having a beer.
And you did not hold back.
No, I was pretty ornery because I was pissed because I wouldn't say he's an alcoholic.
Oh, no.
I mean, he's a quote-unquote normal drinker. But I could see him sometimes get on that fringe of being loopy, but then he would pull back.
He was a bit of a binge buddy, though. Like,
yeah, but if
the time was right,
yeah,
he could put him away.
He could put him away for sure. And
but it was his wife that was the lawyer that invited us.
So he also probably had been like, spoken to like, you don't go there and just drink your night away, Mr. Lawyer.
But the fact that he was going to be there, that made you a little nervous?
Yeah, because I thought, and you did this with everybody that you drank. You always doubled your amount of drinking compared to theirs. Like, you just outdrank everybody. Like, you had 2 to their 1. But even they would look like they're getting really drunk. You were much more drunk than they were. Yeah. Well. Because for a while, you could hold it together, and you just drank faster than they did, and you had ways of sneaking it so it didn't look like you were drinking as much.
So were you just like trying to enjoy yourself, but kind of on pins and needles?
Just side eye all the time. Yeah.
That's got to be hard.
Yeah, and also like, how goofy is he gonna let the kids get before, because there was some rowdiness, and this couple had twins that were our second child's age, and our older one was only 2 years older, and they all played together really well, and we did a lot of things together with them. But I was like, I wonder how goofy he's gonna let our kids get and out of control, because their kids had been to this thing before.
Yeah.
Before you get mean.
Yeah.
Lose your temper.
Let's talk about the stress that's related to owning a whole grain bread bakery leading into Christmas. We made a perishable product. And so when the decision making about how much to make, when that takes place on a day-by-day basis throughout the course of normal times, you can make a pretty reasonably accurate prediction and be reasonably close and, not beat yourself up about being wrong. The holidays, our business would, on a daily basis, it would triple, quadruple what it would be on a normal day. And so guessing how much of each variety of bread to make was a really difficult, stressful decision. And you knew you were going to be wrong. It was just a matter of which way were you going to be wrong. Were you going to be short or long? And were you going to be a little short, which would be fine, or a little long, which would be fine? Or were you going to be a lot short, which would be devastating, thinking about lost revenue? Or were you going to be way over, which was also devastating, thinking of, wasted expenses? And so it was really just difficult to make that decision coming down to the wire toward Christmas Eve. And of course, I medicated the stress of that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And
which always made the predictions even better, the projections for this.
Oh, yeah. Accuracy is enhanced by alcohol.
Exactly.
Everybody knows that. There's a label right on the bottle.
You also didn't mention, and I'm going to throw this in there, also the day of the week that Christmas and Christmas Eve fell on was really going to determine travel days and whether or not we were going to have our normal customers, you know what I mean? So I would try.
Thanksgiving was more predictable because it's always on a Thursday.
Right.
Christmas Eve's always a different day of the week, and so it's not just look at last year's December 24th. It was also a different day of the week last year, so that's not reliable information.
Right.
Excellent point.
We just
taught
was
everybody
dismissed.
Everything they need to know about perishable products, what a holiday.
Oh, and I'm just adding that in there because I was very much dismissed when I would say, but it's this, and so most people are going to travel when this time, and you just acted like my knowledge of our customer base and people who shopped that it just didn't matter because I
Yeah.
wasn't in there as often as you.
Yeah.
So
What was that like to be around me with the, so I'm trying to deal with the stress, and how am I dealing with it? Well, I'm drinking while I'm making the decision. So I'm medicating it. And did you just feel like, did the tension in the house just go up 1,000%, or what was it like?
yeah, I mean, because that was our income, and if you made bad projections, and that was long or short, we were all going to pay the price because there was going to be the grumpiness. Or then I was worried that you were going to try to somehow sell subpar product. And I always felt like my input for whether or not we sold something a couple days old, or me being I was our normal consumer. Mm-hmm. Like I was the person that shopped there,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was that, semi-stay-at-home mom with kids and buying neighbors and teacher gifts. And I would try to interject, well, if I were shopping here, you just made it seem like I just didn't know what I was talking about.
It's fair to say that the decisions I was making were big decisions. I should have 100% not just included your input. I should have really worshipped your input, because like you said, you are
just
more
valued
like my
is
customer.
Fine.
Valued. That's
you don't need
word.
To worship it.
Worship's a little gross.
But consider my consumerism and my place and experience, because I also used to work at one of these locations for 2 years before we owned one.
So it was serious decisions that were being made. I don't want to say it didn't matter. It did matter. It mattered. But when it's a overused cliche to talk about something pours fuel on the fire. But this is a great example of how alcohol does actually, where that cliche comes from, does pour fuel on the fire. I take a stressful decision that needs to be made considering all the inputs, including your opinion, of course, and I elevate it to some level of urgency, like, oh my God, we are not going to survive if I screw this up. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was an important decision, but sometimes you hit it close, sometimes you miss. Either way, we're still going to open the bakery the next day, and we're still going to try again next month and next week and next year.
Yeah, the financial stress was really hard.
The degree to which I put so much pressure on myself, and in turn made everyone live in this pressure cooker. Did you feel that? Did it feel pressure cookery?
Yeah, like when you would talk about, if we don't have enough, then we're going to lose revenue. Or if we have too much, we've wasted this product, and then what's going to happen? And like in my mind, I'm like, well, what's going to happen if we have too much product? It's going to go to donations, and it's going to get consumed by people that really need it. And so maybe that's our way of giving back at the Christmas time. But it also made me think, are we going to be able to buy groceries? Are we going to have a little bit of disposable income? Because is this going to make or break our bank account?
Yeah, and that's the thing I beat myself up about, because it always worked out. It always worked out. Sometimes I did a terrible job making predictions and I screwed it up. But it still worked out. Like it wasn't life or death. And I made, because of my drinking, because of the alcohol, I made this feel like life or death for myself and for the people around me. So unfair. So that might be a unique spin on the Christmas holiday, but I know a lot of our listeners, I think it's really interesting because I've been on both sides of it. I've been in a sales position pre-bakery where everything just gets really slow at the holidays, and then I've been in a consumer product during the holidays where everything gets really busy. And so depending on who you are, listener, that story may or may not be relatable. I want to talk about the Christmas morning mimosas. And I want to know what that was like for you, especially, whether I passed out or not. If I made it through on Christmas Eve, the hors d'oeuvre party that we would have, and getting ready for Santa, writing the note, getting the cookies out, getting the kids to bed, filling the stockings and putting together any Santa toys. If I got through all that and didn't pass out, I was still drinking heavily. Mm-hmm. And you were maybe drinking lightly, but you wanted to make sure everything was right, and that was your priority. What was that like the next morning to get up and have a cup of coffee and then be like, oh, let's get out the mimosas? And See, your alcoholic husband prioritizing champagne again.
I don't know exactly when Christmas morning mimosas started. I know it wasn't early on. Like, no, I mean like within our family.
In our family, okay.
In our family when we started, because it didn't start out that way. Again, Matt's parents come here for Christmas. We wake up Christmas morning, and somewhere, there was this introduction to Christmas morning mimosas. I think I kind of know, and how it started, but at first I was like, well, this is kind of fun. But then I remember one of the mornings we had the mimosas, it just hit me, and I think that I accidentally grabbed your glass.
Well, that would be a mistake.
Because you just had enough to make it look a little light orange.
One of the things I learned is, this is a despicable fact that no human needs to know, but it doesn't matter how much orange juice you put in a mimosa, it's going to be the same color. It doesn't get watered down like other drinks do. So my mimosas were 90% champagne, or not sparkling wine, and just a splash of orange juice.
Yeah.
So if you grabbed mine, you would have known it when you sipped it.
Well, but I really like sparkling wine and champagne. So that's one thing alcohol that I can drink and really enjoy. And I don't necessarily I don't chug it, obviously, but if it was mostly champagne, I wouldn't have been upset. But there had been a little arguing the night before, some tension, I'm sure, about numbers at the bakery, sales, or whatever, just general tension all around. And I got a little bit drunk, just I don't know what else to call it. I would say tipsy, but that makes it sound like I was giddy. I was just in a bit of a sour mood. And ever since that one, I didn't want to have the mimosas. I hated it. I didn't think it was a good idea at all. And I also hated it because it started off the day with you drinking, and then it'd be then you would move to beer. Maybe you'd have some coffee, maybe you'd take a little break, but then, it'd be cocktail hour and then wine. But we still had Christmas dinner and Christmas to get through. So you would be lightly buzzed, and as the day went on, you would become more and more, disgusting to me.
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't passing out that much, at Christmas day, but you were day drinking pretty much throughout the day.
And
with some
pretty
coffee.
Intolerant, too, I think. Especially on a day like that where it's activity one after another. Okay, presents, and then we gotta, and then we gotta start prepping dinner, and it's a long day. That's the kind of thing that would make me really kind of irritable. Don't ask me a question I don't want to answer, because you're gonna get a snappy response.
And it's supposed to be kind of one of those days where you're joyful and you're reflecting and you're kind of relaxing because maybe you're off, from work. I mean, with our business, we didn't have many days off work. And so then it just felt like it was this huge to-do list that we had to cycle through with 8 of us in the house and 4 little kids or younger kids. And it was a lot of pressure. And then you add the alcohol in the morning. It just, either you kind of went one direction of F it, and was whatever happens, happens. Or then you felt the pressure later on when you were trying to grill something out and you had been buzzed all day long and it was getting late. And I'm like, well, what about the grill? Aren't we grilling some of our Christmas dinner tonight?
Sheri, what a tease for episode 328. Our next episode, which will be released between Christmas and New Year's, where we're going to talk about our first few holidays of my sobriety and the fact that the stress and trauma lingered. I appreciate you going down memory lane here and doing some storytelling about Christmases in my active addiction. As another tease for the next episode, I want to leave our listeners with this story. I think, and you would know better than me, but I think when we gave Nick that sweet bike that he still has today that I love that bike, and that we had hidden in our neighbor's garage. And so after the kids went to bed, you and I had to go get the bike, and we both took turns driving it in the street in front of our house. I think that was my first sober Christmas. Does that sound right? I did some math, and I'm like, it lines up timing-wise.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think
first, maybe second. But that was a really nice memory. And I'm not saying that all you got to do is get alcohol out of your life and then everything is unicorns and fairy dust, because it's not. But that was a nice memory. You and I both really liked that bike that we were giving him as a gift, and we took turns riding it in the street before we brought it in to put it under the tree.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, yes, the trauma lingers, and we're going to talk more about that. But the lack of just that anxious stress level, just always being ever present because I'm always ever drinking, that being gone made that a really nice experience for you and I. Did you enjoy that?
Yes.
The riding experience?
Yes, and I thought it was great because that was one of those first Christmases where you were heavily involved, and maybe it was first Christmas, maybe it was like second sober Christmas where you were really kind of coming out of that fog of alcoholism, where you were really intentional and thoughtful about putting gifts together and helping me plan the gift giving.
Mm-hmm.
And you were the one that did the research, and that's why I think I love it the most, is because you really paid attention to his needs, what the best bike that we could get for him, what was going to be like something that he could have for a long time without a lot of work and fixing.
Yeah. It's funny. He's a senior in college right now, and he still rides that bike, and he keeps it in the front porch area of their rental house by a screen door that I'm 95% sure never gets locked. And every time we're up visiting him, I'm like, Nick, don't let that bike get stolen. I love that bike so much. I don't even ride it. But
also, it has a terrible seat, and when you did ride it, you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, this is a terrible seat." I don't know how
people do that. That's a topic for another day. So please come back for episode 328. Hear more holiday stories. This time about the lingering trauma and stress of early sobriety. We want you to understand that if you're going through that, you are not alone. Thank you for listening to the Untoxicated Podcast. You've got this, and we've got you. Oh, and Merry Christmas.